Fleet Commander Zeftok stood on the bridge of his massive warship, watching the stars through the viewing screen. His 4 eyes gleamed with satisfaction as he studied the reports about their next target. The human colony called Haven's Rest looked like the perfect prize. The intelligence data showed everything the Kethtar Dominion wanted to see. 50,000 humans lived on the small planet, working in the mines to dig up rare crystals that powered starships across the galaxy. The crystals were worth more than entire star systems, and the humans had been pulling them from the ground for 5 years now. Zeftok's fleet had 200 warships. Each ship carried enough firepower to destroy a city. His soldiers were the best fighters in the galaxy, trained from birth to conquer and kill. The Kethtar had crushed dozens of species across the stars. Humans would be no different. The commander looked at the tactical display showing Haven's Rest. The planet had a few old orbital platforms floating in space around it. They looked like ancient human technology, probably 20 years old. The platforms had some basic weapons, but nothing that could stop a real military force. Down on the planet's surface, the colony appeared completely normal. The humans had built their settlements near the mining sites, with simple buildings and basic infrastructure. Cargo ships moved back and forth between the surface and the orbital stations, carrying loads of precious crystals up to be shipped across human space. "Sir," said Navigation Officer Kelthvar, "we will reach the colony in 6 hours. Should we prepare the boarding parties?" Zeftok nodded slowly. The boarding parties would capture the most valuable humans for slaves while the regular soldiers secured the mining equipment. The Kethtar Empire always needed more workers for their own mining operations. "Yes, prepare the troops. This should be a simple operation," Zeftok replied. "Intelligence reports show no military presence. Just civilian miners and their families. The humans had a reputation throughout the galaxy for being weak and divided. Their homeworld Earth was far away, and their colonies were scattered across hundreds of star systems. They fought each other more often than they fought alien enemies. Most species saw humans as useful for trade, but worthless as warriors." Zeftok had conquered human settlements before. They always surrendered quickly when they saw the size of his fleet. Some tried to fight back with their basic weapons, but human technology was years behind the advanced Kethtar systems. The few human military units he had encountered were poorly trained and equipped with outdated gear. The tactical officer brought up more detailed scans of the colony. The orbital platforms were definitely old human designs, probably built when the colony was first established. They had basic shields and some plasma cannons, but nothing that could penetrate modern Kethtar armor. On the planet's surface, the mining operations looked exactly like what the intelligence reports described. Large excavation sites dotted the landscape, with heavy machinery digging deep into the ground. Processing facilities refined the raw crystals, and storage depots held the finished products ready for shipping. The human ships in the system were all civilian transports. They had no visible weapons and moved slowly between the planet and the orbital stations. Most appeared to be simple cargo haulers, designed for moving heavy loads rather than fighting battles. A few looked like passenger ships, probably used to bring new workers to the colony. "Sir, incoming transmission from the colony," reported Communications Officer Thekmol. "Put it on screen," Zeftok ordered. A human woman appeared on the viewing screen. She had short brown hair and wore simple civilian clothes. Her face showed clear signs of worry and fear as she looked at the Kethtar fleet approaching her world. "This is Director Sarah Chen of Haven's Rest Colony," the woman said. "We detect your ships approaching our system. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions." Zeftok smiled, showing his sharp teeth. The human's voice shook slightly when she spoke. She was already afraid, and his fleet was still hours away from reaching her planet. "I am Fleet Commander Zeftok of the Kethtar Dominion," he replied. "Your colony now belongs to the Empire. Prepare for immediate surrender." Director Chen's face went pale. She looked off screen for a moment, probably talking to her advisors. When she turned back, her expression showed pure panic. "Commander, we're just miners here. We have no military forces. Please, we can discuss terms. We have valuable crystals. We can trade." "There will be no negotiations," Zeftok said firmly. "You have 6 hours to prepare for our arrival. Resist, and your people will suffer. Surrender, and some may live as workers for the Empire." The transmission ended, and the human woman's frightened face disappeared from the screen. Zeftok felt satisfied with the encounter. The colony administrator was clearly terrified and would probably surrender without a fight. His officers began making final preparations for the assault. The boarding ships were loaded with troops and equipment. The main fleet would destroy any resistance while smaller vessels landed soldiers on the planet's surface. Within a few hours, Haven's Rest would be another victory for the Keth-Tar Empire. Zeftok walked to his private quarters to review the battle plans one more time. The attack would begin with long-range bombardment of the orbital platforms. Once those were destroyed, the fleet would move into close orbit and begin landing operations. The entire battle should be finished in less than 2 hours. The commander opened his files on human military capabilities. Every report said the same thing. Humans were individually weak, poorly organized, and used outdated technology. Their colonies rarely had any real defenses. Most human settlements relied on their distance from hostile neighbors rather than actual military protection. The few times humans had fought against advanced alien species, they had lost badly. Their home fleet around Earth was impressive in size but used old designs that were no match for modern weapons. Human soldiers were brave enough but lacked the training and equipment to face professional military forces. Haven's Rest appeared to be a perfect example of human weakness. The colony was far from Earth and any major human military bases. It had been established purely for mining, with no strategic value beyond the crystals. The humans had probably never expected anyone to attack such a remote location. Zeftok closed the files and returned to the bridge. His fleet continued moving toward the human colony, and his officers were making final preparations for battle. The Keth-Tar warships flew in perfect formation, their weapons charged and ready for combat. The commander looked forward to adding another victory to his record. This conquest would bring him closer to promotion within the Dominion hierarchy. The crystals from Haven's Rest would fund future military operations, and the captured humans would provide useful labor for Keth-Tar mining operations. As the fleet drew closer to their target, long-range sensors began providing more detailed information about the colony. Everything looked exactly as the intelligence reports had described. The humans appeared to be going about their normal activities, probably hoping the Keth-Tar fleet would somehow change course and leave them alone. Zeftok knew that wouldn't happen. The Dominion had found Haven's Rest, and now it would belong to the Empire. The humans would learn what happened when a weak species tried to claim valuable resources that stronger races wanted. In just a few hours, another human colony would fall to Keth-Tar might. Director Sarah Chen stood in the colony's command center, watching the alien fleet grow larger on her screens. The Keth-Tar ships looked dangerous and powerful, exactly like the intelligence reports had described. 200 warships was more than enough to destroy a normal mining colony. But Haven's Rest was not a normal mining colony. Chen turned to her communications officer. "Open a channel to the Keth-Tar fleet. Make sure they can see and hear me clearly." The young officer nodded and activated the transmission. Chen took a deep breath and let fear show on her face. She had practiced this performance many times, but it still felt strange to pretend to be helpless when she had so much power at her fingertips. "Commander Zeftok, please reconsider your decision," Chen said, making her voice shake slightly. "We're just civilian miners trying to make a living. We have families here, children who have done nothing wrong." On the screen, the alien commander looked pleased with her obvious fear. His four eyes gleamed with satisfaction, and his sharp teeth showed in what might have been a smile. The Kethtar always enjoyed watching their victims beg for mercy. "Your pleas are meaningless," Zeftok replied. "The Dominion takes what it wants. Your people can serve the Empire or die." Chen appeared to panic, looking desperately around the command center. In reality, she was checking the status displays that showed her real forces preparing for battle. Everything was going according to plan. "Wait, please. We can give you all our crystal reserves. 5 years of mining, worth billions of credits. Just take the crystals and leave our people alone." The alien commander seemed to consider this offer. Chen knew he wouldn't accept it, but the negotiation bought valuable time for her forces to get into position. Every minute of delay made the trap more complete. "Crystals are not enough," Zeftok finally said. "The Empire needs workers for our own mining operations. Your people will serve or they will die." Chen made her expression show despair and resignation. She looked down at her desk as if accepting defeat, but she was actually reading status reports from her real military units. All systems showed green. The trap was ready. "How long do we have to prepare?" Chen asked quietly. 4 hours until we reach your orbital platforms. Begin evacuating non-essential personnel to the planet's surface. Any resistance will result in the immediate destruction of your facilities." The transmission ended, and Chen allowed herself a small smile. The Kethtar commander had no idea what he was flying into. Everything about his approach showed typical alien arrogance when dealing with humans. Chen activated her private communication channel. "All units, this is Phoenix Base. Execute preparation phase now. Repeat, execute preparation phase." Around the colony, carefully hidden systems began their final preparations. What the Kethtar had seen as simple mining equipment started changing its configuration. The large excavation machines were actually mobile weapon platforms, designed to look like civilian mining gear while hiding advanced military hardware. The orbital platforms that appeared old and weak were actually the newest human military technology, built to look like outdated civilian structures. Their true capabilities were hidden behind false hull plating and fake system signatures that fooled most alien sensors. Chen walked to the main tactical display in the center of the command room. The screen showed the real disposition of human forces around Haven's Rest. Instead of a helpless mining colony, the display revealed a carefully planned military fortress. The civilian transport ships moving between the planet and orbital stations were actually Earth Defense Force stealth frigates. Their hulls were covered with advanced camouflage systems that made them appear to be simple cargo haulers. Each ship carried enough firepower to destroy several alien warships hidden beneath the planet's surface. Dozens of missile silos waited for activation. The silos were disguised as storage facilities and processing plants, but they contained the most advanced weapons in human space. Each missile could track and destroy targets in orbit with pinpoint accuracy. The mining facilities themselves were built around a network of underground military installations. What looked like simple worker housing was actually barracks for elite human soldiers. The processing plants concealed ammunition depots and equipment storage for a full military division. Chen had spent 3 years building this deception. The Earth government had chosen Haven's Rest specifically to lure alien raiders into a trap. The real mining operations were minimal, just enough to maintain the cover story. The valuable crystals being shipped out were actually brought in from other colonies to make the bait more convincing. Every person on Haven's Rest was either a soldier or a military support specialist. The families and children that Chen had, mentioned to the Kethtar commander, existed only in carefully faked records. This was a military operation from the beginning, designed to teach alien races that human colonies were not easy targets. Colonel Martinez, the real military commander of the base, approached Chen's position. He wore civilian clothes to maintain the deception, but his bearing clearly showed his military background. "Ma'am, all units report ready for combat. The enemy fleet is maintaining their predicted approach vector. Should we begin final weapon deployment?" Chen nodded. "Begin Phase 2 activation. Make sure everything still looks civilian to their sensors. We need them to get closer before we reveal our true nature. Around the colony, more hidden systems came online. The orbital platforms extended concealed weapon arrays while maintaining their disguised external appearance. The surface installations opened hidden panels to reveal missile launchers and defensive systems. The stealth frigates began moving into attack positions, using the asteroid field near the planet to mask their true locations. Their advanced engines produced no detectable signatures, while their hulls remained virtually invisible to enemy sensors. Chen returned to her communications station and opened another channel to the Keith Tar fleet. She needed to maintain the illusion of a frightened civilian administrator for a few more hours. Commander Zeftok, we're beginning evacuation procedures as you ordered. Please confirm that you'll allow our civilian transports to reach the planet safely. The alien commander's image appeared on screen again. He looked even more pleased with himself than before, clearly enjoying the sight of humans scrambling to obey his orders. Your transports will not be harmed if they carry only evacuating personnel. Any ship that shows weapons or attempts to flee, the system will be destroyed immediately. Chen nodded quickly as if grateful for this small mercy. Thank you, Commander. We're not fighters here, just people trying to survive. We'll cooperate fully with your forces. Behind her, technicians were making final adjustments to the most advanced military technology in human space. The weapons that would soon unleash destruction on the Kethtar fleet were hidden just meters away from where Chen played her role as a helpless civilian. The alien fleet continued its approach, and Chen continued her performance. Every few minutes, she would transmit updates about the evacuation procedures, always maintaining the pretense of civilian panic and confusion. The Kethtar ate up every detail, completely convinced that they were about to conquer another weak human settlement. As the enemy ships drew closer, Chen felt a familiar mixture of anticipation and satisfaction. Soon, the galaxy would learn what happened when alien raiders targeted human colonies. The Kethtar Dominion was about to receive a very painful education about human military capabilities. The trap was set, the actors were in position, and the curtain was about to rise on a performance that would be remembered across the galaxy. The Kethtar thought they were hunting helpless prey, but they were actually flying straight into the jaws of a carefully prepared military ambush. Chen smiled as she prepared for the final act of her deception. In just a few more hours, Fleet Commander Zeftok would learn why humans had survived every challenge the galaxy had thrown at them. Fleet Commander Zeftok watched with satisfaction as his warships moved into attack formation around Haven's Rest. The human orbital platforms looked even more pathetic up close, their old hull plating and weak energy signatures confirming everything he had expected about human defenses. All ships, prepare for bombardment, Zeftok ordered. Destroy the orbital platforms first, then begin landing operations. His fleet spread out in a classic Kethtar attack formation, with the heavy battleships taking position to bombard the platforms, while smaller vessels prepared to escort the troop transports down to the planet's surface. Everything was proceeding exactly according to plan. The first minute of the attack began with a massive barrage from the Kethtar heavy weapons. Plasma cannons and particle beams reached out toward the human orbital platforms, ready to reduce them to burning wreckage in seconds, but the weapons never reached their targets. The old and weak orbital platforms suddenly blazed with defensive energy fields that absorbed the alien fire completely. The hull plating that had looked ancient and corroded fell away like shed skin, revealing gleaming military armor underneath. Advanced weapon systems emerged from hidden compartments, and the platforms began returning fire with devastating accuracy. Zeftok stared in shock as his lead battleship exploded under concentrated human fire. The orbital platforms weren't civilian structures at all. They were military fortresses designed to look weak while hiding enormous destructive power. All ships evasive. "Maneuvers!" he shouted, but it was already too late for many of his vessels. The human platforms had been waiting in perfect ambush positions. Their weapons were charged and ready, their targeting systems locked onto every ship in the Kethtar fleet. What had seemed like a helpless target was actually a carefully prepared trap. On the planet's surface, the mining facilities began their own transformation. The large excavation machines that had been digging for crystals suddenly reconfigured themselves into massive railgun batteries. The equipment that had looked purely civilian revealed its true military nature. Heavy metal plates slid away from concealed weapon systems. Missile silos opened like deadly flowers blooming across the landscape. Processing facilities split apart to reveal ammunition depots and targeting arrays. The entire colony was changing from a peaceful mining operation into a fortress of war. The second minute brought even more surprises for the Kethtar fleet. The civilian transport ships that had been moving peacefully between the planet and orbital stations dropped their disguises completely. Advanced stealth systems shut down, revealing sleek military hulls beneath the false civilian exterior. The Earth Defense Force frigates emerged from the asteroid field like hunters appearing from cover. Their real hulls gleamed with military armor and bristled with weapons that had been completely hidden moments before. Each frigate carried firepower equal to a Kethtar heavy cruiser. "Sir, we're detecting massive energy signatures from the human ships," reported the tactical officer, his voice shaking with disbelief. "They're not civilian transports. They're military vessels with advanced stealth technology." Zeftok felt a cold shock of understanding wash over him. Everything he had seen about Haven's Rest had been a lie. The intelligence reports, the civilian appearance, the frightened administrator begging for mercy. It was all an elaborate deception, designed to lure his fleet into exactly this position. The human frigates opened fire with coordinated precision that showed extensive training and preparation. Their weapons were unlike anything in the Kethtar databases. Advanced plasma cannons and kinetic projectiles tore through alien shields and armor like they were made of paper. The third minute saw the Kethtar fleet beginning to realize the true scope of the trap they had flown into. This wasn't a mining colony with minimal defenses. This was a military installation disguised as a civilian target. And it had been waiting specifically for someone like them. Director Chen's voice came over the communication channels, but now her tone was completely different. The fear and desperation were gone, replaced by the calm confidence of a military professional. "Fleet Commander Zeftok, this is Colonel Sarah Chen of Firebase Prometheus. You are now experiencing human military doctrine in action. Surrender, immediately, and your remaining ships will be spared. Firebase Prometheus." Zeftok recognized the name from intelligence reports about human military installations. It was one of their most advanced defensive positions, a base specifically designed to destroy attacking fleets. But the reports had said Prometheus was located in a completely different star system. More human weapons revealed themselves across the battlefield. Hidden missile batteries on nearby asteroids began launching waves of guided projectiles. Defense satellites that had been disguised as space debris activated powerful beam weapons. Every piece of equipment that had looked civilian or innocent was actually part of a massive military machine. The human weapons systems showed a level of coordination that impressed even the experienced Kethtar commander. Every shot was precisely timed and targeted. The humans weren't just fighting back randomly. They were executing a carefully planned battle strategy that had been designed specifically to destroy fleets like his. Zeftok's battleship shuddered under multiple impacts, as human weapons found their targets. His shields were failing, and damage reports were flooding in from all sections of the ship. Around him, other Kethtar vessels were suffering even worse. The fourth minute brought the full weight of human firepower down on the alien fleet. The orbital platforms had revealed their true nature as some of the most powerful weapons in human space. Each platform carried enough firepower to destroy entire fleets, and they had been perfectly positioned to catch the Kethtar ships in a deadly crossfire. The railgun batteries on the planet's surface fired massive projectiles at incredible speeds. The kinetic rounds punched through Kethtar armor like it was made of cloth, destroying ships with single hits. The humans had positioned their surface weapons to cover every possible escape route from the orbital zone. "Sir, we've lost 60% of the fleet," reported his tactical officer. "The remaining ships are taking heavy damage. We need to retreat immediately." But Zeftok could see that retreat was impossible. The human frigates had positioned themselves to block the most obvious escape routes, while the orbital platforms covered the others. His fleet was trapped in a carefully designed killing zone with no way out. The human weapons systems showed technology that was far in advance of anything the Kethtar had encountered before. Their targeting was perfect, their coordination flawless, and their firepower overwhelming. This wasn't the outdated human technology that intelligence had described. This was cutting-edge military hardware operated by highly trained professionals. As the 5th minute began, Zeftok realized that his entire understanding of human capabilities had been completely wrong. The reports about weak, divided, technologically inferior humans were clearly false. Either that, or the humans had been deliberately spreading misinformation to make their enemies underestimate them. The Firebase Prometheus deception was working exactly as the humans had planned. They had created a perfect replica of a vulnerable civilian target, complete with fake mining operations and civilian ship traffic. Every detail had been designed to convince attacking forces that they were facing helpless prey. But the real target of the deception wasn't just Zeftok's fleet. It was the intelligence networks and military planning of every hostile alien species in the galaxy. The humans were sending a message that would spread far beyond this single battle. Zeftok's flagship took another massive hit, and he felt the deck plates buckle under his feet. Emergency alarms were sounding throughout the ship, and the crew was reporting critical failures in multiple systems. His proud fleet was being systematically destroyed by an enemy he had thought would surrender without a fight. The trap had been sprung with perfect timing and overwhelming force. The humans had waited until the Kethtar fleet was completely committed to the attack before revealing their true nature. Now it was too late to escape and too late to call for reinforcements. As his ship's systems continued to fail around him, Zeftok began to understand that he had just learned a very painful lesson about human military capabilities. The galaxy's perception of humanity as weak and divided was about to change dramatically. The 6th minute of the battle began with Fleet Commander Zeftok desperately trying to reorganize his remaining ships. Despite the devastating surprise attack, he still had nearly 80 warships left. The Kethtar had superior numbers and should be able to overwhelm the human defenses through sheer firepower. He was about to learn why that assumption was completely wrong. "All remaining vessels concentrate fire on the closest orbital platform," Zeftok ordered. "Focus all weapons on a single target. We can break through their defenses with concentrated assault." His ships began turning toward the nearest human platform, bringing their heaviest weapons to bear. Dozens of plasma cannons and particle beams fired simultaneously at the human structure. For a moment, it seemed like the Kethtar might be able to fight back effectively. Then the humans showed them what real military coordination looked like. The orbital platform they were attacking was only one small part of a much larger defensive network. As the Kethtar ships focused their fire on the single target, the other human installations began a carefully orchestrated response that demonstrated decades of tactical planning and training. Hidden weapon systems across the planet's surface opened fire with perfect timing. The missile silos that had been disguised as storage facilities launched waves of guided projectiles, each one programmed to track and destroy specific Kethtar vessels. The underground installations revealed their true purpose as the humans unleashed a coordinated barrage that turned the space around Haven's Rest into a zone of pure destruction. But the humans weren't just using overwhelming firepower. They were demonstrating something much more dangerous: superior tactical doctrine. Every human weapon system was connected to a central command network that allowed them to coordinate their attacks with machine-like precision. The Earth Defense Force frigates moved through the battle like skilled predators, using their advanced engines and stealth systems to appear and disappear at will. They would emerge from behind asteroids or sensor shadows, deliver devastating attacks on isolated Kethtar ships, then vanish before the aliens could respond effectively. Colonel Chen's voice came over the communication channels again, and this time she was clearly addressing the entire Kethtar fleet. Commander Zeftok, you're experiencing human military doctrine as it was designed to be used. We don't just fight to win battles. We fight to make sure our enemies never want to fight us again. The 7th minute brought a demonstration of human psychological warfare that was as effective as their physical weapons. The humans weren't just destroying Kethtar ships. They were doing it in ways specifically designed to terrify the survivors and break their will to fight. The orbital platforms began using weapons that the Kethtar had never seen before. Instead of simple energy beams or projectiles, the humans fired devices that seemed to eat through alien hull armor like acid. Ships that were hit by these weapons didn't just explode, they dissolved slowly, giving their crews time to send terrified distress calls before they died. Other human weapons created different psychological effects. Some Kethtar ships found their systems being taken over by human computer viruses, turning their own weapons against their allies. Others were hit by devices that disabled their life support systems, forcing the crews to choose between suffocating slowly or abandoning ship. Zeftok realized that every human weapon had been designed not just to kill, but to create maximum psychological impact on any survivors. The humans wanted word of this battle to spread throughout the galaxy, and they were making sure that any Kethtar who lived would have nightmares about human military capabilities for the rest of their lives. The tactical display on his flagship showed the true scope of the human deception. What he had thought was a simple mining colony was actually one of the most sophisticated military installations in human space. Every building, every piece of equipment, every ship had been part of an elaborate trap designed to lure in exactly the kind of fleet he commanded. The humans had spent years building Firebase Prometheus, perfecting every detail of the deception. They had created fake mining records, established false shipping schedules, and even planted false intelligence in alien databases to make the colony appear vulnerable. Every aspect of the operation had been designed to convince hostile aliens that Haven's Rest was easy prey, but the deception went deeper than just appearances. The humans had also been studying Kethtar military tactics for decades, learning exactly how Dominion fleets would approach and attack a target like Haven's Rest. Every defensive position had been placed to take advantage of standard Kethtar attack formations. The 8th minute saw the human strategy reach its full devastating potential. The aliens had fallen into every tactical trap that human military planners had prepared. Their ships were positioned exactly where the humans wanted them, their formations were predictable, and their escape routes were all covered by human weapons. Zeftok watched in growing horror as his remaining ships were systematically destroyed by an enemy that seemed to anticipate every move he made. The humans weren't just better equipped, they were better trained, better organized, and better prepared for this exact type of battle. The Earth Defense Force frigates demonstrated combat capabilities that surpassed anything in Kethtar military experience. They moved through space with impossible agility, their advanced engines allowing them to change direction and speed in ways that defied physics as the aliens understood it. Their weapons were equally advanced, firing projectiles that could track targets through multiple course changes and penetrate any known type of armor. But it was the coordination between human forces that truly impressed the Kethtar commander. Every weapon system worked together as part of a single integrated network. The orbital platforms provided long-range fire support, while the frigates conducted close-range attacks. The surface installations covered escape routes while hidden. Satellites provided targeting data. The humans had turned warfare into a science, and they had been studying the Kethtar Dominion as their primary test subject. Colonel Chen opened another communication channel, and this time her message was being broadcast to the entire Kethtar fleet on all frequencies. To all surviving Dominion personnel, you are witnessing the result of 50 years of human military development. Every weapon you see, every tactic we use, every strategy we employ has been designed specifically to counter Kethtar military doctrine. The 9th minute brought the final revelation that shattered Zeftak's understanding of the galactic balance of power. The humans hadn't just been preparing to defend themselves from alien attacks. They had been preparing to win so decisively that no alien species would ever want to attack them again. The remaining Kethtar ships were trapped in a perfect killing zone with no hope of escape. The humans had weapons covering every possible exit route, and their coordination was so perfect that individual alien ships couldn't break through their defenses. The entire fleet was being destroyed piece by piece by an enemy that had planned this battle down to the smallest detail. As his flagship took more damage and began to lose power, Zeftak finally understood what had really happened. The humans hadn't just set a trap for his fleet. They had set a trap for the entire concept of alien superiority. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity was not the weak, divided species that everyone believed them to be. The humans were apex predators disguised as prey, and they had just revealed their true nature to the universe. The 7th and final minute of the battle arrived with Fleet Commander Zeftak's flagship drifting powerless through space, its engines destroyed and its weapons offline. Around him, the scattered wreckage of 200 Kethtar warships painted a picture of complete military devastation. In exactly 7 minutes, the humans had turned his mighty fleet into cosmic debris. Zeftak stood alone on his bridge, his crew either dead or unconscious from the multiple hull breaches that had torn through his ship. Emergency lighting cast, strange shadows across the damaged equipment, and the only sound was the hiss of escaping atmosphere from a dozen different leaks. His tactical display still functioned, showing him the impossible truth of what had just happened. The human weapons had stopped firing exactly 7 minutes after the battle began, not because they had run out of ammunition or power, but because there were no more targets left to destroy. Every other ship in his fleet was gone, destroyed, disabled, or drifting as helplessly as his own vessel. The humans had achieved total victory in less time than it took most military engagements to properly begin. A new signal appeared on his communication system. The human colonel who had deceived him so completely was requesting to speak with him again. Zeftak accepted the transmission, knowing he had no other choice. Colonel Sarah Chen appeared on his screen, but now she wore a proper military uniform instead of civilian clothes. Her expression was calm and professional, showing no trace of the fear and desperation she had displayed earlier. Behind her, the command center of Firebase Prometheus hummed with efficient military activity. Fleet Commander Zeftak, this is Colonel Chen of the Earth Defense Force. Your ship is being tractored to our station. Do not attempt to resist or activate any remaining weapons systems. You are now a prisoner of war. Zeftak felt his ship beginning to move as invisible tractor beams locked onto his hull. The humans were bringing him to their base, probably to interrogate him about Kethtar military capabilities and plans. He wondered if they would torture him for information or simply kill him when they were finished. Colonel Chen, he said, his voice hoarse from breathing damaged atmosphere, your deception was effective. My intelligence reports were clearly wrong about human military capabilities. Chen nodded slowly. Your intelligence reports were exactly what we wanted you to believe, Commander. Haven's Rest was established specifically to attract raids like yours. We've been waiting 3 years for someone like you to take the bait. The implications of her words hit Zeftak like a physical blow. The humans hadn't just prepared a single trap. They had created an entire false colony specifically to lure alien raiders into attacking them. Every detail about Haven's Rest had been carefully crafted to appear vulnerable while hiding devastating military power. The mining operations, the civilian ships, the frightened administrator begging for mercy, Zeftak said, understanding flooding through him. All of it was a lie. All of it was theater, Chen confirmed. Every person on this base is military personnel. The mining equipment was disguised weapons platforms. The orbital stations were built to look old while hiding the most advanced defensive systems in human space. We even seeded false intelligence into alien databases to make sure potential attackers would believe what they saw. As his ship was drawn closer to the human station, Zeftok could see the true scope of Firebase Prometheus. What had appeared to be simple mining facilities from a distance were clearly sophisticated military installations up close. The humans had created a perfect illusion that could fool even detailed sensor scans. Why? Zeftok asked. Why go to such elaborate lengths to deceive us? Chen's expression became serious. Because the galaxy thinks humanity is weak, Commander. Every alien species believes humans are easy targets for conquest or exploitation. That belief has led to attacks on our colonies, raids on our shipping, and attempts to invade our territory. We decided it was time to change that perception. The tractor beams pulled his ship into a docking bay that was clearly designed for capturing enemy vessels. Automated systems secured his ship, while human troops in full combat armor surrounded the docking area. Zeftok realized he was completely at their mercy. The destruction of your fleet is being broadcast across Kethtar space right now, Chen continued. Every Dominion ship, every military base, every government facility is receiving detailed recordings of this battle. They're seeing exactly what happens when someone attacks a human colony. Zeftok felt a chill that had nothing to do with his damaged life support systems. The humans weren't just defending themselves, they were sending a message to every hostile alien species in the galaxy. The message was clear: attack humans at your own risk. But you're not the only ones receiving our message, Commander. We're also broadcasting these recordings to the Veltar Empire, the Zephyrian Collective, the Antaran Republic, and every other species that might be considering hostile action against humanity. They're all learning the same lesson you just learned. Human. Soldiers entered his ship through the airlocks, their movements precise and professional. They secured the bridge and began checking for any remaining weapons or dangerous equipment. Their leader, a woman with captain's insignia, approached Zeftok with medical equipment. Commander, I'm Captain Rodriguez. You're injured and suffering from atmosphere loss. We're going to provide medical treatment and transfer you to our detention facilities. Zeftok allowed the human medical team to treat his injuries, too exhausted and defeated to resist. As they worked, he thought about the implications of what had happened here. The humans had just demonstrated military capabilities that would force every alien government to recalculate their assessment of human strength. Colonel Chen's voice came over the ship's communication system again. Commander, you should know that Haven's Rest isn't the only installation of its type. We've built similar facilities throughout human space, each one designed to appear vulnerable while hiding devastating defensive capabilities. Any alien force that attacks a human colony is likely to encounter the same welcome you just experienced. The human medical team finished their work and began escorting Zeftok toward the airlock. As they walked, he saw more evidence of the elaborate deception that had destroyed his fleet. Equipment that had appeared civilian from a distance was clearly military hardware up close. Computer displays showed tactical information instead of mining data. Personnel wore combat uniforms. Instead of worker clothing, Captain Rodriguez spoke as they moved through the corridors of the human base. You'll be held in comfortable detention while we arrange prisoner exchange with your government. During that time, you'll be able to observe how a real human military installation operates. Consider it an educational opportunity. They reached a detention area that was clearly designed for high-ranking prisoners. The cell was spacious and well-equipped, with communication access and entertainment systems. The humans were treating him according to military conventions rather than as a common criminal. Colonel Chen appeared on the communication screen in his cell, making one final statement that would haunt Zeftok for the rest of his life. Commander, I want you to understand something important. The battle you just experienced wasn't won through luck or trickery. It was won through superior preparation, advanced technology, and decades of tactical planning. Every human colony, every human ship, every human installation has been designed with one goal: to ensure that humanity never appears weak to our enemies again. She paused, letting her words sink in before continuing. When you return to Kethtar space, you'll be asked to report on what happened here. I want you to tell them exactly what you saw. Tell them that humanity is done being underestimated. Tell them that every human target they attack might be another fire-based Prometheus. Tell them that the age of easy human prey is over. The communication screen went dark, leaving Zeftok alone with his thoughts. Outside his cell, he could hear the efficient activity of a military base that had just achieved total victory over a numerically superior enemy force. In 7 minutes, everything the galaxy thought it knew about humanity had changed. The humans had revealed themselves as apex predators disguised as prey, and they had done it in a way that would be remembered and feared throughout the galaxy for generations to come. Zeftok closed his eyes and tried to process the magnitude of his defeat. He had come to conquer a weak human colony and had instead discovered that humanity was one of the most dangerous military powers in the galaxy. The worst part was knowing that this message would spread. Every alien government would soon learn what had happened at Haven's Rest, and none of them would ever look at humanity the same way again.